The Bill Simmons Podcast, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, Russillo is in here. He's wearing his I am going to defend Chris Paul to the death t-shirt. Oh, no, that's not what it is. But you have that look on your face. It was yet another terrible last 3 minutes of the game for Chris Paul. Add it to the Pantheon. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's clearly hurt. I don't know if we should start there, but we should at least mention there's something really wrong with him. And if you look at the game tonight, the Bucks come back, they win by 6. The series is tied 2-2. And the Suns, they get this monster game from Booker, who played 39 minutes, was in foul trouble, but still got to 42 points. And really nobody else does much. Crowder has 15. Chris Paul has 10. Ayton has 6. Cam Johnson has 10. But it's like, if I'm a Suns fan, I'm now terrified. Because if I don't have a healthy Chris Paul, I have one scorer that I completely trust, and this is now a best 2 of 3. First question, did Chris Paul seem healthy to you? Because I say no.
No, but we can't start there. We just can't. I mean, I've had people
Why?
checking in on me. I just don't think we can, because I feel like it's disrespectful the fact the Bucks even the series, but it's your podcast, so we can start wherever we want. The funny thing is,
but that's the biggest story of the game, though.
Here's the deal. He sucked. The first half, I'm like, okay, is he feeling people out? And then the third quarter, I'm going, all right, he's going to wake up. And then, Pat Connaughton made that first big three. The big three he hit later with 3 minutes left. Then he made that one that hit above the backboard, and I was watching Paul grab his wrist. And here's what I would ask. Like, he sucked, so I'm not defending him. Everybody's checking in with me, and everybody's expecting me to kind of, and this is going to sound like because I like him, I'm making an excuse.
Yeah.
Why can't he dribble in game 4? Like, I don't get it. And there were key possessions where Cam Payne was in. He actually was decent again after having the worst plus minus for any rotation guy through the first 3 games. But Paul was waving Payne to initiate the offense, and he was standing in the corner. So either he totally choked and didn't even want to have anything to do with the possessions, or there's also something wrong. But look, he sucked. I can't defend it, but it sounds like an excuse if we're like, why could he also not dribble all of a sudden tonight? Because that's weird.
My thing is an injury affecting how somebody plays? And this is one of the best ball handlers, in recent NBA history. And it didn't seem like he could handle the ball at the level that he used to be able to handle it. And it really hurt them a couple of times down the stretch. And the reason I think it's an important storyline is this Suns team now, they played 8 guys tonight. Torrey Craig played 15 minutes, but they lost Saric. They're relying on Cam Payne, who was pretty good tonight, 17 minutes, 9 points. But, they're really going to have to lean on him if Chris isn't healthy. And then you look at the other side with the Bucks.
Well, if Chris isn't healthy, if he's going to play like this again, the series is over.
Well, do you think he has... are we going to find out after that he has torn ligaments in his left hand, or that he has some sort of severe injury? Because today, leaving this game tonight, I thought to myself, I actually think he's legitimately hurt, and they're not telling us.
I mean, we might find out something, but to like what magnitude? Because he still looked pretty good throughout the series. So did it happen recently? Did it happen? Because I thought he got hit in the Clippers series, and he had to tape himself up, but then he still played well. So, if somebody's hurt, that's fine. But I don't always, when they play poorly, want to say, okay, well, they're only playing, because that's what happens a ton too. We did that for years. All of a sudden, somebody would be terrible at the end of a closing playoff game, and you'd be like, oh, he's tired. Like, he wasn't tired in game 5. Like, Golden State went for 73 wins, and then they lose a 3-1 lead, and people are like, yeah, they got tired. They're like, well, they weren't tired when they were up 3-1 against the Cavs. So
killing them.
Right. So if they'd won 68 regular season games, they would have won games 5, 6, or 7. Like, that's stupid. So it feels like excuse making. I would just simply ask this: why can he not dribble now all of a sudden? Whether he fell down, he was bobbling the ball the entire night, and he just didn't look comfortable. And then to have him be like, no, Cam Payne, you go ahead and start the offense, and I'll stick myself in the corner. I'm watching it going, okay, what is going on? Like, is the moment too big for him, or does he know like it's just not happening? Because maybe the argument's that the moment was too big for him, which feels really weird because he's had absolutely like legacy-defining moments throughout the playoffs.
Well, if you're not feeling right, and it is a big moment, those two things together can hurt. But 5 turnovers tonight, and just didn't seem right. I actually think this is a game where if Booker doesn't do what he does, they could potentially lose by 20 because he was the only guy that could get going. But you talk about the great game 4s in the finals. Game 4 is always a fun one, right? And we go back to 2016. You mentioned Warriors Cavs, 2011 Mavs Heat, 2008 was that Celtics comeback game. 2000 was the Shaq fouls out, Kobe and OT kind of becomes Kobe for the first time. 93 MJ against the Suns. 87 was the junior skyhook and the most devastating miss of my entire life. Bird missing the three in the corner by a split second. 85, DJ made a game winner. 84 was the famous Bird versus Magic OT game, which swung that series. 1980 was Kareem's, I think, greatest finals moment when sprains his ankle, comes back. Was that game 4 again? No, I'm screwing that up. That was actually game 5, my bad. But game 4's, I don't know if this got there. I don't know historically if we'll be talking about, oh yeah, and then 2021, but it had some really great stretches. The Booker third quarter was outrageous. I mean, that was really like, I was just, you talk and then I'll go after you, but like, I was thinking about him with the heat check guards on big stages, and something historically I felt like was happening, and then the foul trouble derailed it, but it seemed like he was on pace for what? You would have said easy 50, right? He was making every kind of shot.
Yeah, he had 20 at the half. He had 18 in the third quarter. The foul trouble, we'll get to the phantom.
Oh, my God.
The no call when he was actually trying to take the foul, which actually is worse that Booker was
fouled
trying
him
to
twice.
foul. Right.
Fouled him, and then he's fouled him a second time on the same play.
And then they actually had another foul they didn't call on him later, but now the game had kind of run. Like, the weird thing about Booker is because coming into this, you're like, okay, if Phoenix goes up 3-1, you imagine Booker's going to respond at some point, because he was so bad in game 3. I mean, he was terrible in game 3. He hasn't shot over 34% in any playoff round so far. Yeah. And so on the high end of Booker, like a night like tonight where, guys are comparing him to Kobe, you even talked about his shot making, which I thought was a little aggressive in stating where he is among NBA shot makers. But then he has the kind of night tonight where he was absolutely carrying him. Like, nobody else had double figures until very late in the game because, again, Paul was terrible. Yeah. They're never going to go to 8 and enough. Bridges can be 0 points or 18 points. Crowder's been steadier, even though he missed the first couple shots. I thought he really gave him something, and then hitting those free throws there again late. So honestly, like, I wouldn't call it a great game. There's one stat in particular that means everything. Milwaukee had 34 extra chances in comparison to Phoenix's. They were plus 12 on turnovers. Oh, excuse me, plus 34 on extra chances. I don't know if I just said 37. They had 12 less turnovers, so they're plus 12, and then 12 more offensive rebounds. So despite the shooting numbers and some of the offense that they got away from, which I want to get to a little bit later, because finally we saw that Giannis Middleton two-man game, which basically was unstoppable at the end, and Middleton was great. The Giannis block on Ayton is the play from this game. Like, if Milwaukee comes back and wins an NBA championship, I think Giannis's block on Ayton, where his back is to Ayton, he turns, it's clean at the rim, no foul. That to me is like the image of this series if Milwaukee wins a title.
And he even got the Breen blocked by Antetokounmpo. He went to that LeBron 2016 thing. Yeah, look, Mark Jackson keeps calling Booker a superstar in this series. And to me, superstar is reserved for a very, very small list of players. And one of the biggest quality, I think, if you're an actual superstar is even if you're not having a great game, you're still impacting it in all these different ways. Like, your version of an average game is as good as anybody else's game. And I think why Booker's a star, and you saw it tonight, but he also has games like game 3 where he disappears. There's a consistency that he just doesn't have, and he was magnificent tonight. Giannis didn't really have it tonight. Still finished with 26 and 14, 8 assists. Well, he should have more assists. They missed a bunch of open threes that he was created for people, and he had the 2 biggest blocks of the game. And as you said, his block on Ayton was the defining play of this game. And I just thought over and over again, he was doing positive stuff, positive things. There was even some really kind of high-level, high IQ stuff where he was getting rid of the ball when he was getting fouled. Instead of shooting it, he was turning them into passes last second so he wouldn't have to go to the free throw line. Did you notice that? He did that at least twice. Then there was another time when he got rid of the ball right as they were about to foul him. But I thought really high-end game from him. But the Booker thing, I stand by the shot making thing. You saw it tonight. He made like 10 different types of shots in this game.
You had him ahead
there
of
were
Steph,
bankers.
Though. I just couldn't accept it.
Fallaways. What about that play when Holiday was like, all right, fuck this. This guy's not scoring anymore in the third quarter, and basically climbed at his jersey. And Booker he was at the foul line. He was doing this herky-jerky Earl Monroe, turning. And then finally, Holiday never left, and he still made this shot with Holiday basically like hanging all over him. I thought it was that 7 for 7 in the third quarter was all-time stuff. I mean, this is the biggest stage we have, and the rub for him is, can he do it more consistently? That's the difference between star, superstar. I think tonight he would have had 50 plus, and I do think those fouls, you got to figure out a way to stay on the court when you're that hot. He fouled out, and they just didn't call it.
You know how they have for NFL, like, it started with quarterback camps out here in California. Like all the QBs come out here to work out now in the LA area, the OC, maybe even San Diego, but the entire coast down, it feels like quarterbacks come out here. So then the receivers are like, well, we need to do this. And then I think the tight ends did it in Nashville. Then the O-line guys got together this past week. There needs to be, do you take bad fouls in your really good player camp for NBA guys? Because the number of fouls that guys just waste for the clear path one that he could have been called for, like, it's just never worth it. Like, it's early in the game.
What about the foul and the rebound when he knocks somebody into the basket support and then...
I actually thought Tucker, that was a tough call. But honestly, between Tucker and Crowder and everybody falling down all over the place, it kind of evens out. But if you're a Bucks fan, if you had lost this game tonight and Booker doesn't get the sixth foul there where he's trying to take it, which again is the more egregious thing, that it was such an idiotic decision and it not to even be called. It felt like Milwaukee was the right team to win this tonight. And I'd also say back to like the Drew Holiday thing, because he just can't shoot consistently enough and it's been constantly disappointing. His defense is wearing Chris Paul down. So I don't know if we're going to find out about something else, but when Drew picks him up like that and then Tucker is chasing him and then Tucker's making Chris Paul have to find him, you know what I mean? Like there's some plays in there where I think it's physically taxing on Paul. And maybe that's part of the equation of this. Like there was a huge offensive rebound by Drew Holiday underneath the basket, and Paul just wasn't ready to box him out properly. And Drew got a huge offensive rebound. Tucker makes him fight him for rebounds because Tucker doesn't give him anything, even though Tucker, the stat line, you'd look at it and be like, what did he bring tonight? So I think Drew's tenacity has picked up dramatically since points of game 2. And even though he can't shoot it, he was good in game 3. That's, I think, a big part of slowing down the perimeter stuff for Phoenix getting set up.
Well, and some miles on Paul these last 3 rounds, too. This is somebody who's been in the 30 to 32 range in the regular season.
At halftime, 8 players had played more minutes than him. And when they brought him back in, he was at like 24 minutes. So they paced him, and we got like 3 days off here.
That's the flip side, right? But he's still playing. He's been playing 37, 38, 39 minutes a game now for 5 weeks. So if he's not hurt, that's the only other reason I can think other than he choked tonight. Yeah.
It's not enough for me. If it's that, then it's all on him until, if we were to ever find out something about the wrist. But I'm not going to accept, like, when you have 3 days off, you can't just be like, hey, now I'm tired at game 4. I don't know. I just don't accept that one as much. I might be wrong.
I was thinking about heat check guards on this stage. How many in history, and I actually went through as Booker was doing his thing, because obviously you have MJ and Kobe. I think Reggie could have had a game like the game Booker was headed for. Jerry West, Hondo, Dwayne Wade, even though maybe not the same kind of 3-point range, but he's in there.
Absolutely.
I think Andrew Toney's in there.
Nice.
And Sam Jones. And then maybe Joe Dumars. Joe Dumars had a couple moments on big stages where he would just be complete. He wouldn't do it for 4 quarters, but he would do it for like a quarter and a half, where you would be like, wow, why doesn't this guy average 35 a game? That's really it. The 2-guard position, it's not exactly loaded with guys who could do this. I mean, you could have like the Clay type of heat check, but not, I'm talking about shot making. This is why I love Tony. I ride for Andrew Toney. He had a 5-year stretch there where he was just unstoppable, and it was 20-footers, 15-footers going to the basket. And you just kind of couldn't handle him. And Booker reminded me of Andrew Toney tonight. I know he gets compared to Kobe because Mark Jackson loves and Kobe Bryant told him, be legendary. And that's what he's doing tonight. I know that everyone loves that story, but he doesn't play like Kobe Bryant. To me, he plays way more like Andrew Toney.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck Knobloch told me to fuck off one night too, but I don't get to like put that on my shoes. So, like there's just, there's so many, like we've really pushed the limits of what, some of these stories are. Hey, should you have thrown Manu in there? I'm just trying. Because I love that you put Dumars in there. I love that you put the Boston Strangler in there.
Manu had a couple runs in the 2000s. I don't think he could do it for a whole game, but definitely a half. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Manu belongs.
I'm looking at one of the Dallas series here, and
I'm going to add him. I'll add him.
I'm not messing with your history. I know the what tier you're at, what tier I'm at when we're talking historical
No,
perspective.
I think
here.
Mano's a good call.
Yeah.
I'm just happy I got Andrew Toney in there because I do feel like he's been slept on completely.